Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we are back to another recording session of Hearthstone. So, first we've got this to trade out, and we did our best. I had a 50 gold that I traded down to a 40, but whatever. So now I need to play Warrior, and Priest, or Warlock, and Mage, and Shaman. Win games, play 50 warrior cards. This is going to take forever. I also had a watch and learn, and I had a challenge a friend. Challenge a friend got me 80 gold, and the watch and learn got me this card pack, which in total this is making me a little afraid that we're closer to the next expansion, because they let us do all of the expansion. That barely got me like 40 dust for that whole thing. Let's just, I suppose we need to do an arena run again. Mage, Shaman, Priest, or Warlock. So, seriously? None of them? Well, I don't think I'm gonna have enough time to talk and to do an arena run and to get all these quests done. That's going to have me spend way too much time. Let's start with the Shaman and just play. Shaman card, overload deck, rank 25th. Oh yeah, the rank went over, so was that
deck is only for wild games.
Was that the case before? And it switched me too. No, I was playing standard because of where I was. I guess I can play rank standard with this at rank 25 and get some easy victories. Playing a rank 25 is probably easier than playing casual, because casual could be anybody of any skill level, where rank 25 is pretty much everybody of a very low skill level or haven't played that much. And we're far enough into the month as of this recording that shouldn't be the case. I do want to keep this, but I also would like to play something on the first turn, but might as well skip it actually for the second and third turn too. A couple of things not on my list here that if I can remember them all. Apparently, not to get political, I mean, we've covered politics, but we try to only cover it when it actually relates to video game industries. Certainly, there's been a lot more people who don't like the travel ban in the video game industry. That's a pretty common occurrence amongst many companies, particularly more tech companies, tech inclined, and usually run by liberal company people. So no real surprise there. But it turns out, in a separate bit of news, which is slightly interesting, his chief advisor, chief strategist, if I'm getting this right, I believe Steve Bannon, I could be so wrong about all of this, had an investment in a company that was a huge World of Warcraft gold farm. It was, until it almost got sued and then sold off its farm, and then decided instead to divest in that, and I assume he divested in that too. His former employer, Goldman Sachs, invested like $60 million into the company, and somehow put him in charge of, gave him a seat on the board because of that investment. That's not hugely odd though. I mean, really? from Goldman Sachs' perspective, they probably didn't care what the company did. They probably just looked at their balance sheet and said, we can invest $60 million and get our $60 million back. But to make sure we get our $60 million back, we're going to demand a seat on the board, which is what a lot of investors do. And when you have a seat on the board, it doesn't mean for a second he showed up to any of the meetings or even knew he had a seat on the board, really. Because when you are an investor, when you're a rich person, these things happen a lot more than you would think. I feel like I'm maybe over justifying it there. I mean, it still is certainly weird, but an interesting little tidbit of history. At one time, a company that was World of Warcraft gold farming, where you would go to some website, pay some people real world money, and they would farm gold for you through some probably through hiring Chinese people or through people running scams or stuff, which was a huge issue in World of Warcraft. I don't know if it really is an issue anymore. I don't know if anybody gold farms or does any of those things anymore, or if it would even matter, or people would even care enough to. But a little bit of an interesting history. The other thing that's not on my list, as we move away from politics, which I would always prefer to do, is I've been watching Game Sutra on Twitter, which is kind of, I think I pronounced the name right, I hope. I may have totally got it wrong, but it's a Japanese-focused but English-speaking website, I suppose. Yeah, that's the right phrase. News reporter of video games. People that I do want to follow more of. In the same way I follow Eurogamer and PC. What is it? PC Mechanic or PC Gaming Monthly or something like that. Anything I can stand. I'm following Polygon right now too, but I'm probably not going to be able to stand them because they also cover TV and other things, movies and comic books, and it's just too much. I follow DC and had to mute them because I don't really care about what's coming out as far as DC comic books.
We must cleanse the sun.
If somebody could see, and maybe they can, I don't even know how. I have it set up on Twitter. All the things I'm following, tons of them, the things I'm following, I have muted, and I just followed for contests in the first place to win things. A lot of like pro league esports players did contests and didn't win. I think any of them. I don't think I've ever won any of these player contests, and I'm not sure if I really believe that any of these contests actually do pay out. I did followed a lot of contests trying to win an extra mattress. Nothing wrong with having a spare mattress somewhere, particularly if it's a foam mattress. Then it would just be in a box. And let's see, but mostly I focus on trying to win games and PC hardware that would actually have some use to me. I'm not gonna go with crazy swag stuff. I don't want statues, posters, or things like that. Speaking of which, another thing is, I'm really at this point kind of not happy with the way Twitch Prime is paying off, because it's giving me or associating things to my Twitch launcher account thing, which I'll never use. I'll never play any games on it. So I'm just getting duplicates of games that I'll either already own or will eventually own on Steam. It's just not gonna happen. I'm not gonna wake up one day and say, you know what, Amazon's Twitch launcher Twitch launcher game interface has more games that are worth owning than Steam. Therefore, I should take my 600 games now. Yeah, I'm up to 600. I've been saying 500 for a while, but I was actually closer to 600. Uh, it's just never gonna happen that I would trade. Let's see, do 2 damage here and 3 damage here. And then we'll go ahead and kill this guy. So yeah, I'm not happy that they're not giving Steam codes. Speaking of Steam codes, I'm kind of rambling everywhere, but it's a linear path of logic. Humble Bundles 2 have now started to feel like they're not going to work for me. As it's set up, I just can't really justify getting 4 or 5 duplicate game Steam codes to get one, even if that one code is cheaper. I mean, monetarily, I can justify that. Yeah, if the Humble Bundle, if I get in early and I spend $7 and I get one AAA game that I know I wanted, but I just didn't have for some reason, and then it gave me 5 other Steam codes. It's not a big deal, but it starts to push me into this realm of having too many giveaways happening as far as all of that, and the thing I don't see working on Steam on YouTube right now is I don't see people doing giveaways and it actually gaining any viewers. Maybe there's a different way that does work. Like, I don't know, perhaps it's a case where
Job's done.
Perhaps it's a case where they give away games via Twitter or Facebook or some other service, and maybe that's something I would start to do, but I still don't feel like I'm big enough for that to be a fair anything. I mean, literally, if I did a contest tomorrow on Twitter or YouTube or anything, I imagine I would only get maybe 10 or 20 views on the entire video. One person would bother to enter it, and then that one person would win. And as far as a giveaway, that would be a great deal for that one person that won. But for me and my time and my effort and the initial stated reason for doing the giveaway, which would be to increase incitement and increase the number of views on my channel, that doesn't really pay off at all.
I must move quickly.
So I'm in this setup where I've already got a list of a few Steam codes that I'd like to give away, and maybe I will do it. Maybe I'll have enough to do it by Christmas. But I think that would be about all I'd want to do is during the month of December do giveaways either at a random interval or maybe one every day. Maybe we do it 13 days of Christmas. Something along that lines. Let's see. Let's go ahead and kill this. Kill this one. In return. Yeah, I don't see this one surviving. So yeah, Humble Bundle's not really working for me. I imagine this is the problem that everybody with Humble Bundle eventually runs into, is that either you are net or have everything you want and have to expand into collecting multiple copies of things that you will never play, or you have to expand into the Humble Books or the Humble Music shield setup where you're not even buying video games anymore.
Reporting for duty.
Let's see. She didn't play this right.
Move quickly.
Alright. Do this. Do this. This. There we go. I think I might win here. Unless he can do 14 damage to me somehow. So that's all I have that's not on my list of things. Let's start talking about, let's actually start going down the list of things we have. So there is no order to how I write things, or probably more accurately, there's a slightly random chronological order on how I write down things. It's just what I see on the list. And sometimes if there's like two different stories about the same game, which often happens, like when RE7 came out, there were multiple RE7 stories that to mention within the first few weeks of it coming out. But Konami, the video game company that doesn't want to make video games anymore, has announced 2 Bomberman games, although the first one is an arcade-only game in Japan that really doesn't matter, but it just shows how much they kind of care about their own franchises, which is none, and we know this. They've announced Bomber Girl for arcades in Japan, which is a 4-player arcade thing with an interesting controller. It looked like you were more using a trackball in some parts instead of using a joystick, which I don't know. Maybe in Japan the control sticks for some arcades are a little bit different, so I'm not gonna really worry too much about that. I'm gonna play Warrior now. Warrior class cards, which means we're gonna have to go to Wild. Probably. Well, we'll stay here for a second. This is Hunter. And this is Warrior. So we gotta go to Wild. And Taunt. And Enrage. And Weapon. And I think we'll just play Ranked with Weapon, because that's probably the one that's going to play the most Warrior cards. And so it's Bomber Girl, and so instead of Bomberman, who is this kind of just stick figure with circles for hands, or balls for hands, and balls for legs, and a little ball antenna on their head. And then there's many different colors and slight variations of the Bomberman men people that are just different colors of that. And it's been this very kid-friendly game. Bomberman is a very old game, and there was one on the NES. There was probably even a Bomberman that came on maybe some of even the earlier systems than the NES. But instead of that, they've now got just sexy anime girls. don't even closely look anything like Bomberman. I don't even think they have the antenna, as I'm trying to think about it. And for good measure, of course, they their clothes get blown up and they get skimpier when they lose. So you get like one still image from best as I can tell when you lose. And that's it. I mean, this is an arcade game in arcades. It's not going to go to full nudity. Not even in Japan. No way. No way is there going to be like full-on public nudity on an arcade game. That's you could possibly get that if they had like special adults only section arcades, but I've never heard of that. I've never heard of that in Japan at all. And there's an article later, which we can talk about, that would argue that too. And remember, in Japan, everything lower body has to be pixelated anyways. So that's just more argument that that would never happen. Let's see.
Scuttle the ship.
I'm winning this, but I'm not playing very many warrior cards. So I mean, it's just the ultimate sellout. It really is just trying to get a quick bump, trying to appeal to the most basis crass ideas. Let's get rid of that. Can't attack heroes, unfortunately. This and this would work together to let me use this weapon forever, but it's still not very helpful.
Wanted, dead or alive.
So, watch this. We do this, and then we do this, and then we play this, and this. Done. There we go. And I know in Japan that there are certain, like, different ways to say gender things. It's kind of like the French language, that there's masculine and feminine. Spanish is also like that. But, and I know in Japanese particularly, there's an age thing, and women don't particularly like to be called old ladies or use the old terms. The wrong honorific certainly will upset them. But in the translation, I don't think it's completely a translation error that they went from Bomber Man to Bomber Girl. It should be Bomber Woman. Compare this to Pac-Man and Miss Pac-Man. Well, actually, you're giving more of an honorific to Miss Pac-Man because she has a actual title in front of her in English. This, you've devolved. Bomber Man apparently is a fully grown man, and Bomber Girl is just a girl. And so that's just yet another element to it that I think it's just inappropriate. And it's really, really inappropriate when you know that Super Bomberman R is coming out for the Switch. So it's not like they are trying to take the whole series in a total direction. They've literally decided to go both ways. So the Nintendo game for little kids has still the Bomberman with the balls for hands, little stick man with a round head and a round antenna. same as it always was. Looks super silly, looks super cartoony. But in the meanwhile, we figured we'd just sex it up in Japan arcades and go the other direction. And you can't do that. I don't want a E for everyone honey pop. Although, arguably for honey pop, there was so little mature stuff in it that it could have been a teen dating game, fine, but it never would have really worked for everyone, because you don't need to teach an 8-year-old, 10-year-old that level of relationship and dating and memorization of facts about people. So Konami is still trying to make as much money as possible. One could hope possibly that this is the dying gasps of the company, and that they are slowly going to just run out of money and have to give up. One could certainly hope that. I don't know if that's really the case, though.
What now?
I mean, it really is just some random guessing on that. But to speak to Japanese censorship, which is what it is,
You
like,
require my assistance.
in no art form at all in Japan can you do lower extremities. So everything in Japan is, by definition, softcore at worst. Although a lot of people do kind of break or bend that law so that they can get to almost hardcore. They'll put a tiny little pixel on it that is you can see right through and still totally see the rest of it, but that is technically legal and people do get in trouble for it. Let's see. Let's go ahead and let this guy win. So, just to quickly cover this, in a weird twist that I don't really understand at all, Resident Evil 7, a game made in Japan by Capcom, a Japanese company, fully invested in the mentality of the Japanese society and what they like, censored their own game to be less gory in the Japanese version. Now, the only thing I can guess is that they were going for a specific rating. The rating boards are different in Japan than they are in the West, the ESRB in the West, and I don't remember what the one in Japan was called. And so maybe they had to make it less gory to keep that, or maybe they just wanted more psychological horror. But there's several points where they definitely spent time and effort to animate things for the Western world, which seems very, very strange. Japanese are really good at doing gory horror. I've seen plenty of animes that are gory horror, but so I don't know why they would have taken that out. Maybe they wanted more of a subtle psychological horror in that game, but I don't think that works. I don't think that works in Resident Evil Biohazard at all, because most of the enemies in the entire series have always been about being gory, monstrous zombies. It's not something that's supposed to be spooky psychological. There's plenty of other games like that, but that's just not what that's been. So I can only assume that they got feedback from their ratings board and they were told to edit, in particular, about 4 sections that I saw to be less gory. So some kind of weird self-censorship going on in Japan, which in itself is a growing problem that I could certainly go into longer, but there's no real reason. There seems to be a new way of thinking that's happening in Japan, and it's causing them to self-censor. So the artists who want to put out their own ideas are being censored or being told to censor themselves, which is just a soft censorship. And because of it, the world is suffering because the art is getting tainted. And thank goodness, I suppose, that we will always have, or probably will always have, RE7 in the West to see it in that version. But there's plenty of things that don't get an uncensored release in Japan in particular, and in other countries in particular. And so the artist's pure vision, which I sort of believe in, just gets corrupted. Anyways, we're just sitting here, so that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to friend or follow me on basically any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.